I hadn't even put my bag down when I realized something was wrong. My front door was locked from the inside. That may not sound like much, but it was everything. I had the only key. My wife, Anna, had moved out weeks ago after things fell apart between us, the shouting, the silence, the thousand little betrayals we never admitted to each other. When I left town for a short break, just 3 days to breathe and clear my head, the house was supposed to be empty. No visitors. No tenants. No one. But as I stood there on the porch that afternoon, key in hand, suitcase at my side, I could feel it in my chest. Something was off. The lock clicked under my fingers, but the door barely moved. It thudded like something heavy was wedged against it from the inside. I tried again. Nothing. I leaned my ear against the wood. Faintly, from somewhere deep inside, I could hear water running. Not the comforting sound of a sink left on or a shower dripping, but a long, steady stream, like a faucet on full blast. My heartbeat quickened. Maybe a pipe had burst. Maybe the house flooded while I was gone. I knocked, just in case, a silly instinct, like maybe someone would answer. No reply. I stepped back, circled around to the side of the house. All the windows were shut. The curtains were drawn, which was strange, because I never left them that way. That's when the smell hit me. Faint, metallic, familiar. I couldn't quite place it until I inhaled again, deeper this time, and it crawled into my nose like something sick and wet, the sharp tang of rust, or blood, or both. I froze. My mind scrambled. Had someone broken in? Was someone still inside? Or worse, had someone died in there while I was gone? I tried calling Anna, even though I knew it was pointless. Straight to voicemail, same as the last 5 times I'd tried to reach her in the past month. We hadn't ended things cleanly. The last time we spoke, she told me I never listened, that I was always trying to fix problems by running from them, that I treated her like a guest in her own home. She moved out 2 days later. I hadn't heard from her since. I didn't have the luxury of wondering anymore. I called the police, told them what I knew, that I'd been out of town, the house should be empty, and I couldn't get inside. I didn't mention the smell. Not yet. Not over the phone. Within 15 minutes, 2 patrol cars pulled up, sirens off, lights silent. One officer asked a few questions, took down my name and ID, then gestured for me to step aside. "Let's see what we're dealing with," he said, drawing his flashlight even though it was still daylight. They knocked, announced themselves, waited. No answer. One of them radioed in while the other put on gloves and reached for the door. With one powerful shoulder thrust, the door creaked open just barely, then stopped. "Something's blocking it," he muttered. They pushed harder. Whatever was on the other side scraped across the floor. Then finally, inch by inch, the door gave way. I'll never forget what I saw next. It wasn't blood. It wasn't a body. It was a chair, an old wooden chair from the kitchen, propped against the doorknob like someone inside hadn't wanted anyone to come in. That alone should have chilled me. But what truly froze me in place was what was behind the chair. Water. It had flooded from the back of the house, soaked through the hall, pooled into the living room. The entire floor was wet. The air was heavy. With the smell coppery, raw and wrong. The officers stepped inside slowly, guns drawn now, movements measured. "Stay here," one of them told me, voice low. I couldn't help myself. I followed a few steps behind, careful not to touch anything. The source of the water was the bathroom upstairs, the tub, still running, overflowing, water cascading down the stairs like a small waterfall. It had soaked the carpet, the drywall, the baseboards, everything but the bathroom itself. That's where things turned. The mirror had been shattered, glass in the sink. The shower curtain had been ripped clean off. A child's toy sat in the corner, a rattle, blue, unfamiliar. I didn't have children, at least. Not that I knew of. One of the officers found something in the basement. Called for backup. The word sealed came up. False wall. I heard them radio in for a detective. Forensics. Something wasn't right. Something wasn't adding up. "Sir," one officer said, pulling me aside, "do you have any reason to believe someone might have been living here while you were gone?" "No," I said immediately, but then I hesitated. "I mean, it's possible. I've been out of town. My ex-wife had a key, but she's gone." "Are you sure?" he asked. I couldn't answer, because no, I wasn't sure. Not anymore. Not after seeing the crib, the toy, the chair against the door, the water still running like someone had just stepped out of the bath. The cop looked me in the eyes and said, "We'll need to check every corner of this house. There might be someone still here. Or someone who was here recently." That's when I felt it, not fear, not guilt, something darker. Something like dread. The kind of dread that whispers, "You were never really alone here. And you're not alone now." I stepped back outside, water dripping from my shoes. The late afternoon sun suddenly feeling cold on my skin. I didn't know what they would find. I just knew I wouldn't be able to forget it. The officer didn't hesitate, looked me dead in the eyes and said, "Sir, step back." Then, with a single hard kick, the door crashed open like it had been waiting to breathe. The sound echoed down the street, sharp and unnatural, like something snapping after being stretched too tight for too long. And then the smell hit us full force. Not just water or mold like before, but something far more disturbing. It was sour, metallic, thick in the back of the throat like pennies soaked in rot, the unmistakable scent of decay. The officers stepped in first, weapons drawn, moving carefully, scanning every inch of the water-damaged hallway. I stayed just outside the threshold, my hand on the frame, not sure whether I was afraid of what was inside, or afraid of what I already suspected. They moved deeper into the house, their boots splashing in the flooded carpet, radios crackling softly at their hips. One of them turned to the other and muttered, "You smell that?" The other just nodded grimly and pressed forward. I heard drawers being opened, doors creaking, footsteps up the stairs, then down again. One officer came back toward me, his expression tight. "Anything valuable or dangerous we should know about in the basement?" He asked. "Tools? Gas? Cleaning? Supplies?" I shook my head. Nothing but old boxes, the breaker panel, paint cans. But even as I said it, I realized I hadn't been in that basement since Anna left. I hadn't even thought about it. For all I knew, she could have hidden a hole. Second life down there, and I'd never have known. The officer didn't wait. He turned back, flashlight drawn, and disappeared down the creaking basement steps. I heard the wood groan under his weight, heard the water dripping from somewhere below, then silence, a long, empty silence, until a voice, faint but sharp, called out, "We've got something." My heart nearly stopped. The second officer rushed down to join him. I didn't follow. I couldn't. Something in me had already begun to pull away, bracing for what I knew couldn't be good. A minute passed, then another. Finally, the two officers emerged, one pale, holding a soaked blue blanket in gloved hands. The other cradled a clear baby bottle, its contents long spoiled into something grayish and foul. They both looked at me like they didn't know what to ask first. "Sir," one of them said carefully, "we need you to come with us." I nodded. Legs numb, mind racing. I followed them down into the basement, heart pounding against my ribs. The room was darker than I remembered, colder, like something had been living in the walls. At the far end, behind what used to be my tool shelves, a large wooden board had been pulled aside, revealing a narrow opening. It wasn't part of the original floor plan. "This wall?" One of them asked. "Did you build it?" I shook my head, never seen it before. Inside the opening was a tiny hidden room barely large enough to stand in. No windows, no vents, just concrete walls, the exposed back of the foundation, and the faintest flicker of a nightlight plugged into a socket near the floor. There was a crib, makeshift, fashioned from wooden planks and zip ties. A stained mattress lay inside. On the floor, a small space heater, rusted and unplugged. Nearby, scattered items, diapers, jars of baby food, a teddy bear with one eye missing. I stepped in slowly, my breath shallow, like even the air didn't belong to me. That's when I saw the notebook on the crate turntable. Spiral bound, familiar handwriting, Anna's. I reached for it with trembling hands and flipped to the last pages. The entries were recent, dated just days ago. "I hear him at night. Again. Upstairs. He doesn't know I'm here. I keep the baby quiet. I can't let him find us." My mouth went dry. I flipped back a page. "He knocked on the door this morning. Said he came to fix the boiler. He doesn't work here. I saw him before. Same eyes, same shoes. He's watching the house. He knows we're here." The last page was half written, the ink smudged and trailing off. I think that was it. Just that. No signature, no goodbye, nothing. I felt the officers looking at me, waiting for me to explain something I didn't understand. "My wife." I started. "Anna. She moved out a month ago. She was pregnant when she left, but I didn't know she." I couldn't finish. One of the officers gently took the notebook from my hands. "Do you have any idea where she might have gone? A relative? A shelter?" "No," I said. "We haven't spoken since she left. I didn't even know she'd had the baby." He exchanged a look with his partner, then turned back to me. "We're going to need a list of any names, places, or addresses she might have used recently. Even first names help." I nodded slowly, still staring at the crib. The smell in the room had changed. It wasn't just mildew or decay. It was the scent of desperation. Of someone trying to survive, hidden and forgotten. And I had no idea how long she'd been gone or what she had been hiding from. But one thing was painfully clear. This room wasn't for comfort. It was for hiding. Whoever built it wasn't trying to raise a child. They were trying to disappear. And maybe, just maybe, they didn't make it in time. It didn't feel like a discovery, it felt like a confession. As I stood in that narrow, suffocating hidden room behind the false wall, surrounded by a crib, a space heater, a spoiled baby bottle, and my ex-wife's torn-up diary, I realized this wasn't a room anyone ever meant to be found. It wasn't built for comfort or shelter, it was built for survival. Crude, cold, and quiet. A place to hide, but from who? And why? The more I looked around, the less it felt like a space someone escaped to, and more like a space someone was forced to disappear into. The walls weren't painted. There were no pictures, just concrete and desperation. The broken baby monitor in the corner, the scorch marks near the heater, the tiny handprints on the wall above the crib, they told stories that hadn't made it into Anna's diary. Stories no one had listened to, until now, and the diary. It felt like the loudest scream in the room. I read more of the pages, careful not to rip the fragile paper. Her handwriting shifted, at first neat, orderly, almost clinical. She talked about the pregnancy, about our breakup, about moving into the guest room upstairs after I started sleeping on the couch. She mentioned how quiet the house felt after I left, how it wasn't the silence that scared her, it was what broke it. Footsteps at night, the hallway creaking. When no one was awake, the attic door clicking shut by itself. She had started recording things, she wrote, but when she played the footage back, the video was blank. Black screen, no sound, just static. She said she started hiding things: formula, diapers, cash just in case. She wrote about seeing a figure in the backyard one night. Not me, not a neighbor, someone taller, watching the window. She didn't call the police, she was afraid they'd think she was having a breakdown. After all, she had walked away from her marriage, from a man she once trusted, who would believe she was being stalked, especially with a newborn on the way. The entries became more frantic from there. Each page more unhinged, more paranoid, more desperate. One line repeated more than once, sometimes in capital letters, sometimes underlined. He's inside the house. I had to stop reading. My hands were shaking. My head spun with questions I didn't want answers to. I stumbled backward out of the room, heart hammering, and stared around the basement like I was seeing it for the first time. What else had I missed? What other part of this house had secrets I never thought to check? I looked up, the attic. The attic door had always creaked. The ladder never quite closed properly. I'd dismissed it as old wood and warped beams. But now I wasn't so sure. I told the officers I wanted to check something, and before they could stop me, I was already climbing the attic stairs 2 at a time. When I pulled the string, the ladder creaked down slower than usual, like it was resisting. Dust poured out like ash. I climbed up, flashlight in hand. The attic was darker than I remembered. A single dusty window barely let in any light. It smelled like mothballs and insulation. But in the corner, something caught my eye, not because of what it was, but because it wasn't there before. A mattress. Thin, torn, lying flat on plywood. Next to it, food wrappers, empty water bottles, a bag, inside the bag clothes, male clothes, adult size, definitely not Anna's, a hunting knife. A flashlight and a phone. Not mine, not hers, burnt on one side. Someone had been living here. For months, maybe longer. Above me, taped to the wooden beams, were pieces of paper, dozens of them. Handwritten notes, drawings, sketches of the house, floor plans. One was dated the day after I left for my trip. Another had a drawing of Anna holding a baby. A third, and this one made my blood run cold, showed me sleeping on the couch. The caption below read, "He doesn't know I'm up here." I dropped the paper, backed away, the officer below me called out, asking if I was okay. I wanted to say yes, but my throat had gone dry. I descended slowly, the weight of what I'd found pressing down on me like the attic itself was collapsing. "Someone's been living in the attic," I said, barely getting the words out. "Not Anna, a man." That was when things moved fast. Police cordoned off the entire house. Forensics swept every inch. I was taken to the station for a statement. They questioned me for hours when I'd last seen Anna, why I hadn't known about the baby, if I had enemies, stalkers, family members with a history of violence. That last question hit me like a punch to the chest. I thought of someone I hadn't seen in months. My brother, Mark. He had always been troubled. After our parents died, he spiraled in and out of psychiatric care. Obsessive, erratic. He stayed with me once right after Anna and I got married. Said he needed help getting back on his feet. But he had a temper, got too close to Anna. She told me he gave her the creeps. I kicked him out. That was almost a year ago. I hadn't heard from him since. But I remembered something now: the boots in the drawing. The ones on the figure watching the house. They matched Mark's. Black, scuffed, military style. He wore them even when it made no sense. Always said they made him ready. I told the police everything, every detail. They started digging. Credit cards, surveillance, phone pings. And while they searched, one truth burned into my brain. That hidden room wasn't Anna's hiding place. It was her prison, built by someone who believed he was protecting her, or owning her. And now he was gone, out there, somewhere, watching, waiting, maybe planning to come back. I must have called her 100 times. Morning, afternoon, middle of the night. Her phone went straight to voicemail every single time, the same hollow message I'd heard for months. "Hi, it's Anna. Leave a message." But now it felt like something more than distance. It felt final, like she didn't exist anymore, or didn't want to. The police issued a welfare check immediately after I gave them her last known contact information. She'd apparently used a local women's shelter as a forwarding address months ago, one she listed when she filed to have her mail held at the post office. It was a lead, but barely. We drove there together, the detective and I, silence thick between us. The shelter staff recognized her name. Yes, she had stayed there for about 3 weeks. Quiet, kept to herself, always looking over her shoulder. One staff member said, left without notice one night and didn't come back. That was 6 weeks ago. 6 weeks. And yet everything in the hidden room, the baby clothes, the bottles, the diary looked fresh, recently used. So either someone was keeping it that way, or someone else had been using it. The thought made my stomach turn. When we returned to the house, forensics had pulled fingerprints from the attic and the hidden basement wall. Half matched mine. One matched Hannah's, but several didn't. They were still running comparisons, but I already knew, my brother. Mark. It had to be him. The drawings in the attic, the captions, the mattress, the food wrappers. It was all him. He had been inside my house for weeks, maybe months, and no one noticed, not even me. That kind of stealth, that level of obsession wasn't new for him. It was just new to me. The more I thought about it, the more it made sense. The reason Anna left so abruptly, the way she refused to tell me where she was going. She wasn't just protecting herself, she was protecting someone else. Someone small, someone fragile, someone he believed belonged to him. But we never had a child. Anna had been pregnant when she left. That much I now knew, but the baby. The baby in the secret room. If it even still existed, if it had ever been there at all, was it mine? Or his? I hated that question. I hated that it even needed to be asked, but the police asked it. And somewhere inside, I had asked it too. I drove 4 hours that night, past the edges of town, 2 old places Anna used to go. Her aunt's house, her childhood church, the old bookstore where she once told me she used to hide from the world. When things got too loud, none of them had seen her. No one had. It was like she had vanished into thin air. I kept hearing her voice in my head, from old voicemails, from memories. You never listen. You think fixing things is the same as showing up. God, I wished I had listened. I wished I had looked harder, sooner. Maybe then she wouldn't have felt like hiding in my own home was safer than telling me the truth. I stopped by a motel just outside the county line, the kind of place that didn't ask for ID if you paid in cash. I showed the night clerk Anna's photo. He paused, said he thought he might have seen her. Woman came in about a week ago, looked tired, had a baby, didn't speak much, left after one night, paid in cash. No security cams working that night, budget cuts, he said. Of course, but he did give me a receipt, handwritten, room number, timestamp. I passed it on to the detectives. They started mapping movements, bank withdrawals, burner phone pings, even hospitaler logs for any woman matching her description. That night, I sat alone in my car outside my own dark house. Lights still off, the silence pressing in. And for the first time, I wondered something that chilled me to the bone. What if I wasn't the one she was hiding from? What if she was hiding from all of us? What if she believed that no one would protect her, not the police, not the shelters, not even me? What if she had already tried running? And the only safe place she knew was underground, behind a wall, in a house she once called home? I didn't sleep that night. I just kept replaying the timeline in my head, over and over, the dates on the diary pages. The last time I saw her, the phone calls I never answered, the texts I never noticed. Then something clicked, an old bank alert. I remembered I'd once set up notifications for our joint account, back when things were still good. I hadn't checked that email in months, but buried in the inbox, just before midnight, I found one. A withdrawal, £75, a gas station, 40 miles north. I called the station. A manager picked up. I sent Anna's photo. He called me back 10 minutes later. Yeah, he said. She was here. Baby with her. Looked nervous. Bought food, diapers, bottled water. Paid in cash. He paused, left in a rush. Guy walked in behind her. She looked like she'd seen a ghost. My blood ran cold. What did he look like? I asked. Tall, hoodie, military boots. My chest tightened. It was Mark, no doubt in my mind. She had been one step ahead, just barely. And he was hunting her, not with guns or fists, with obsession, with patience, with shadows. The detective called me the next morning. We think we know where she went, he said. There's a cabin listed under her mother's maiden name inherited through probate 2 years ago. Middle of nowhere, abandoned for years. But if she wanted to disappear. I was already in the car before he finished the sentence. Gravel roads, dense woods, a gate half torn from its hinges, and then, at the top of the hill, the cabin. Lights off, curtains drawn. I stepped out, heart in my throat, and when I knocked, a small cry answered, then a voice, weak, familiar. Who is it? I closed my eyes. Anna, it's me. The door creaked open an inch, then two, and there she was, pale, thinner, but alive, a baby clutched in her arms, her eyes wide with disbelief. How did you find me? She whispered. I didn't answer. I just said the only thing I could. You're safe now. He's not going to hurt you again. But the way her eyes scanned the trees behind me, I wasn't sure if she believed it. It didn't hit me until I saw her cry, not sobbing, not screaming, just a slow, steady leak of tears down her hollow cheeks as she stood barefoot in the doorway of that forgotten cabin, clutching our baby like the only thing keeping her on this earth. That's when the weight of everything finally settled: the attic, the false wall, the footsteps she heard when I wasn't listening, the silence she endured while I thought she was just being distant. And when she said the words, "It wasn't you," it was marked. The ground beneath me might as well have given way, because in that instant, the final piece of the nightmare slid into place. My brother, my own blood, the man I took in when he had nowhere to go, the man I defended when Anna said he made her uncomfortable, the man who slept under my roof, smiled at our dinner table, and then quietly disappeared, while secretly leaving a part of himself behind. She told me everything that night, her voice breaking between exhaustion and fear. Mark had started watching her long before she knew. Little things at first: misplaced objects, open doors, cold drafts from the attic. She dismissed as structural quirks. Then came the whispering, not out loud but written, on paper, note stuck into her laundry, slipped under the bathroom door. I see you, you're not alone. He doesn't deserve you. She never told me. I don't know if it was shame, or fear, or because she thought I'd defend him again. Probably all three. When she discovered she was pregnant, everything spiraled. She was sure it was mine, and so was I, but Mark didn't believe that. He told her one night when I was asleep on the couch that the baby was his, that God had given her a second chance with the right brother. She locked herself in the bathroom until morning. I never even knew. The next week she moved out, told me it was the marriage, the stress, the silence between us, but really she was running from a man who was already living in our walls. I don't know what hurt more, what he did, or how little I knew. She tried everything after that. Shelters, motels, even couch hopping through friends she hadn't spoken to in years. But he always found her, not physically at first, but in subtle, haunting ways. Notes again. Items moved, phone calls from unknown numbers where no one spoke. That's when she made the plan to come back, not to me, but to the only place she could hide from him. Our house. She broke in while I was gone, built that hidden room behind the basement wall, stocked it with formula and baby supplies, then sealed herself in. The plan was to stay 2 days, long enough to regroup, but then he came back, and she couldn't leave. For weeks, she survived underground, barely sleeping, feeding the baby in silence, listening to his footsteps above. She wrote everything down in that notebook, hoping one day someone would find it and her. But he must have sensed something. Maybe it was the smell. Maybe it was instinct. He started spending more time in the basement. One night she heard him moving boxes near the tool shelf. That's when she ran, took the baby, left everything else behind. Somehow, she made it to the cabin her mother had left her in, a villa place even I had forgotten existed. That was 2 days before I returned, 2 days before I found the locked door and called the police, 2 days before everything came unraveling. The detectives listened to her story with quiet horror. Then they began to dig. They pulled security footage, credit card transactions, a tangled web of phone data and hospital logs. And sure enough, Mark's name appeared like a stain you can't scrub out. Fake IDs, burner phones, aliases. But the worst came when they searched the crawl space beneath our house. A place even forensics hadn't checked until Anna described the layout from memory. That's where they found it, a duffel bag hidden behind insulation and loose floorboards. Inside were women's clothes, folded with disturbing care, baby items, cash, cans of formula, and a towel soaked in something red and dried. Blood. Whether it was hers or the baby's, they didn't know. Yet, but the presence of it was enough. They issued a warrant. Mark was picked up 2 days later, not far from the gas station he'd followed Anna to. He was calm when they arrested him, smiling, as if it was all a misunderstanding. He said he loved her, that she belonged to him, that I had stolen his family. He denied everything else, claimed the attic was his safe space, that the drawings were part of his therapy, that the child was meant for him. The case went To trial, the media ate it up, brother in the walls, obsessed uncle or delusional father. The hidden room case, but none of that mattered to me. All I cared about was Anna and our baby, and the chance to be something I hadn't been in a long time. Present, I moved us out of that house, sold it, burned the blueprints, started. Fresh in a city where the attic didn't creak, where the walls didn't whisper. Anna is healing. Slowly. She still checks locks 3 times before bed, still jolts when a floorboard pops. But she smiles now too, sometimes. And the baby Jonah, he laughs in a way that reminds me that the future doesn't have to be defined by the past. As for Mark, he's behind bars now, diagnosed, medicated, monitored, but no prison will ever make me forget what he took from us, not just safety, but peace. He didn't just hide in the walls of my house, he cracked the foundation of everything I thought I understood about trust, about family, about myself, but we survived him. And now, every morning I wake up to the sound of Jonah's laugh and Anna's sleepy voice saying, "He's yours." I know we buried more than one truth in that house, and we left them all there, sealed in wood and silence, exactly where they belong.